Beauty and Brains presents A Work in Progress, your favorite weekly podcast all about navigating adulthood and adversity with transparency and vulnerability. Here, we highlight progress over perfection. You're listening to my personal and professional development diary, where I share the highs and lows and the real and raw parts of the story that no one talks about. I'm your host, Brelynn Hunt, A Work in Progress. Dear friend, I hope all is well with you, that you are as healthy in body as you are sound in mind and strong in spirit. Welcome back to A Work in Progress, the podcast. We are back in our OG setup here. I feel a little bit strange, to be honest. It's like I really loved recording on the webcam, and it made it so easy to edit. I just had to bloop, drag and drop, but we've gotten a new camera. I've had this for a minute now. I got my new camera. We're back in our old setup here. And we got some things to talk about. We got some things to talk about. Let's go ahead and get into it. I also feel kind of sad because I wore my Miss America shirt, you guys. And then I realized that you can't even see it when I'm using like my good camera because it's so zoomed in to my face. But let me go ahead and get comfortable. I hate how everything just squeaks around here. Embarrassing me. Okay, can I be this far? You guys still hear me? I think so. Hi. Welcome back to a new podcast episode. As you can tell by today's title, we're going to be talking about my Miss Maryland 2022 experience. I kind of do one of these recaps every year now, it seems like, and they all have gone differently. So interesting. I mean, this season, this year, but specifically we're going to really just talk about like the Miss Maryland experience this 2022 year. I mean, it was a hot mess, and I feel so many different ways. I feel a lot of things. It's kind of hard to get like my emotions out just because it is the end. It is the end for me and Miss Maryland. Let me just preface it. I think it's important to start off by saying that this was a bonus year. I thought that I ran out of eligibility, like I aged out. There's an age limit to becoming Miss America, which means there's the age limit to being your state representative. I thought that I aged out last year. And so this time last year, when I sat down and I did my recap of my Miss Maryland experience, it was a recap of like my entire Miss America experience and my entire like pageant experience in general. It really, I had a very bittersweet emotions about things. I was so proud of myself. I was third runner up. I had managed the, being a title holder through the pandemic, waiting for 2 years. And I mean, knowing after 2019 that I wanted it and not being able to hit that stage until 2021 and all the things that happened in between then, I was of course upset that like the job and the title wasn't mine and the opportunity wasn't mine, but I was proud of myself for getting up there, doing my best, especially after all that I had been through in those like years and months and things. Little did I know. And I was so ready to literally like close that chapter and move forward into the next part of my life. Little did I know, I feel like a few months later, honestly, but it was some months. Like if that was in July, I was in Washington County. I was still doing service and stuff up until, profound to me. The date should be more profound to me since it really did change the trajectory of my entire year. But maybe around September, October, I remember Lydia coming over to my house, and it was before she was going to go to Connecticut for the Show Me Your Shoes parade. And there's like also their orientation weekend, I think. I have the worst memory ever. But she came over and I was like letting her borrow some clothes and stuff, and like just like whatever you want from my closet, girl, like you got it. And I remember her being like, there's talks that they're going to change the age limit. And I literally was like, they're not changing the age limit. Like they're just not going to do that. They're just not going to do it. I'm not even going to get my hopes up. Like, I'm here to support you, girlfriend. And lo and behold, I remember there's this really big group me chat with all of the national Miss America local title holders, and they started it in the beginning of the pandemic. And so the girls chatting there periodically, and I remember the chat blowing up that night, and it was like, first the girls in Texas were like, did you guys hear about this? And I'm thinking to myself like, no way, no way. And I was like, okay, well, I just because I have another chance doesn't mean that I should. Doesn't mean do I want to? Do I know if I want to? I don't really know. Let me take some time. Let me think about it. Let me pray about it, because I don't want nothing that's out of God's will for my life. And I remember praying about it for a long time and not hearing anything. I was like, I'm not getting any type of like, yes, no resounding, you should go for it, this is your year. And I was like, I mean, what I'm learning, because I pray and fast in order to hear answers a lot. And sometimes what I'm realizing and what I've grown to realize is that sometimes if you are in your word and your understanding of the word, like, you know deep down in your heart, like you just have a feeling, and if you and your heart are in line with God, then your initial feeling is probably also like in the will of God, because he doesn't want anything that's for you. And obviously he can allow anything and everything to work for your good if you love him. So I kind of was just like, I was waiting for it. I was waiting for an answer. And I will honestly say that I never received like a resounding like signs, miracle, wonders. But I was like, I mean, there's nothing resounding that's telling me like no. So I'm gonna find out for myself. I'm like, I'm just gonna see. But it took me a minute, because when I actually went to Miss America in December, I still hadn't had my mind made up. And you guys saw that vlog, and that experience I remember really kind of solidifying like, oh, I would love to be up on that stage, and it feels possible. Like if there was just a little tweak, I could have been Miss Maryland. I could be up there on that stage. Like it just felt so possible. Like I knew so many people there. I ran into people, and there was just a lot of seeds that were planted at Miss America. In addition to like that whole year of being so close, then maybe be like, you know what, I'm gonna come back. But in December, I already knew like, okay, when I come back in whatever, whenever the new locals are going to be, there are different things that I want to do. Now, the thing about this year that was really just unique to me was that around this time in December, specifically in January, is when things with medical school really started to get real. It started to get like, yo, I'm not hearing anything. Like it's crickets out there. My applications are out, my secondaries are out, like the MCAT is done, the app is like everything is out there, and I'm waiting and I'm not hearing anything back. And I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do? If I don't get into medical school this year, what am I going to do? Like, what is it going to look like? What do I want my life to look like if I have another year of being a pre-med, living here in Maryland before going to medical school? Which really, really scared me. If you guys watch any of my previous podcast episodes, you know that like thinking of not being a doctor, like on this long pre-med journey that I've been on for years, it just kind of like really stresses me out, gives me a lot of anxiety, a lot of self-doubt, just like all bad things. I really just had the passion for wanting to kind of shift my focus and my perspective from, instead of it being another year of me not in medical school, that maybe it's an opportunity for me to live in my purpose and walk in my purpose in a different way. And so I decided to change my social impact initiative to focus on the education and the advocacy for the maternal health crisis, because the horrible maternal mortality rate in the US, specifically that for Black women and minority women and minority and Black birthing people, is one of the most impactful reasons why I want to be a doctor and why I want to practice obstetrics and gynecology. You guys have heard me talk about this literally since I was going into Spelman. And if you know me in real life, you know that I wanted to be an OBGYN forever. And specifically when I went to Spelman and I learned about the maternal health crisis and literally just all women study stuff, like my life changed. My eyes were opened, and I immediately was like, this is my purpose. Like, this is my passion. I feel like I've always wanted to be a doctor. I've always loved women's health. I always knew that I wanted to be a doctor for women, and I didn't really know why. I just liked it. But when I found out about the crisis, like, it ignited my passion for public health, and I immediately knew, like, this is something I need to do. I need to make a difference in this way, and I'm going to do so by being a doctor. And so in this area of life where I felt really just stuck, like I am not living in my purpose. Like, what am I doing right now? I know why God put me on this earth. So it's like, God, if this is why you have me here, then why won't you get me started? Like, why won't you let me get started? Why won't you get me into the medical school so I can be a doctor, so I can save these women's lives, so I can be that advocate on the labor and delivery floor and save these Black and brown women from dying due to childbirth complications? I was really just like, why? And my answer is kind of just like, why are you waiting until then? Like, what can you do here and now? And the thing that I love the most about the Miss America organization, the fact that they give each girl a platform, and they give a girl a platform at the local level to where you can really like make a difference in volunteerism and community service. And I'm a volunteer girl. I'm a community service girl, okay? There are so many reasons why I participate in this unpredictable ebb and flow of a competition called pageantry. There are so many reasons, but the thing that first grabbed my attention, other than just like the glitz and the glam, like the intention of it all, is like the community service, because there really are not a lot of places where you can like individually like do your own community service without like starting your own nonprofit, or like there just aren't a lot of things, especially like out of college. There aren't a lot of ways where you can like genuinely make a really big impact with community service in your community, at least not that directly aligned with what I want to do. So for me, like the really big reason why I wanted to come back was because I was like, you know what, this is actually a chance for me to change my social impact initiative, to focus on the maternal health crisis, and to be this maternal health advocate that I always say that I am. But it's like, in what ways are you an advocate? Just because you want to be a doctor and you want to help, but what are you doing here and now? And I really challenge myself to be like, this is the year where if anybody ever asks me that question, I'm going to be able to say, I've done this, I've done this, I've done that. And I will really be able to, again, educate other people about it, spread more awareness about it, and really genuinely make a difference. And so like in January, I started like just journaling, like, what does that look like? Do I want to make a difference by speaking to my representatives? Do I want to raise like a butt ton of money? Do I want to host different events? Do I want to talk to doctors? Do I want to talk to nurses? Do I want to talk to students? Do I want to talk to children? Like, how do I want to do this? And I mean, the idea just kept flowing and flowing and flowing, and nobody has really been able to fully see the full vision and the details of my social impact initiative. But like, I put in work, like before anybody even heard about it or saw about it, but anybody heard about it or saw it, like I was putting in work to be like, what can I do to like genuinely make a difference? Like, what can I do to walk in my purpose here and now, and use this platform to do so? So at this time, I was still Miss Washington County, but I was still doing like my B Squared workshops, as well as just like other community service events in the local Maryland area. And then I gave up my title. And honestly speaking, can we be honest here? I wish I just would have stopped then. I wish I would have given up my title as Miss Washington County, and I just would have like left my Miss Maryland experience there, just with the cherry on top. It was a beautiful experience. Everybody was just so kind to me there. I loved Washington County, Western Maryland, and I just wish I would have ended it there. And I talked about this in a previous podcast and like in some vlogs and stuff too, where this local season for me was really, really difficult, and I have no idea why. All I can say was that it wasn't really meant for me. Actually, I won't even say that, because I just had lunch the other day with somebody who I met at my first local where I went unplaced. I had never lost a local at Maryland before. I lost a local in North Carolina, but once I got my footing here in Maryland, I never lost a local. Like I'd only done the two that I won. And so I was like, oh, this is very like strange and off, especially after coming from a year where I placed in top 5 at Miss Maryland. It was a pretty competitive local. Like both of the girls end up being in the top 4 at Miss Maryland this year. Spoiler alert. So it's like, that's fine. It's understandable for sure. But I was really just like, shook about the entire thing. I say that to say, though, that I ended up meeting a lot of amazing people, and I wouldn't have been as close to them, been able to be a mentor and also be able to gain a mentor myself if I wasn't in that space. And so even though I'm like, I wish I didn't do it, and I wish I never did it. Oh yeah, like I have a hard juxtaposition this year between a big part of me is like, I wish I did not come back. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm like, I wish I just didn't do it again, because I would have rather have gone out on top, because I was very happy with my loss last year. Whereas this time I'm not so much, but I could find a lot of purpose and joy and reasoning behind it. So it's like literally what the Bible says. Like, I can see how he's using it for my good. It just still sting a little, it's just sting just a little. But so yeah, I've kind of went over all of the local season stuff again in the previous episode, so I won't really harp on it again. But I do think it is a good point to make where, yeah, part of me is like, I wish I never did it, and part of me is like, I can see why I had to go through everything that I had to go through just in order to be the person I am today, even though I lost the entire competition. I think I explained this in my other videos as well, but I think it is important to mention just because a lot of people probably just don't understand, like, specifically why pageantry, specifically why Miss America, like, why do you want to be Miss Maryland? You could do this, you could do this. And it's like, sometimes it's just like, y'all, those things don't necessarily speak to me. The reason why this organization and this title and this job speak to me is like, one, being able to be a part of a community. Like, it is a once in a lifetime chance to get plugged into a network of like-minded women who carry the same passion to seek the best version of themselves. You're really not going to be able to find that in a lot of places, especially not in a way where things are like catty and malicious or just really, really competitive. Like, obviously it's a competition, so things are competitive, but it's also like a really big conglomerate of sisterhood at the same time. And I think it's all about like your personality and your perspective on things, on which way you look at them. The second part, again, is that platform, the ability to make a change in your community and for your voice to be heard. Like, you guys don't understand, when I wanted to move forward with my social impact initiative, the way that like my emails were responded to when I was able to say that I was Miss Cumberland or that I was a candidate for Miss Maryland, versus just like, hey, I'm Brelynn, a random person who you have no idea. Like, your emails are responded to. People ask to take pictures with you at events. You don't have to go up to other people and fangirl them. Like, for example, when I went to a March of Dimes, there was their gourmet gala, and I was in my crown and sash. The March of Dimes president was there, and I knew exactly who she was because I partner with March of Dimes for my social impact initiative. And I go up to her and I'm just like, hi, my name is Brelynn, blah, blah, blah. And actually, no, I was walking past and she stopped me and was kind of just like, oh my goodness, like, can we take a picture? And I'm like, yes. And then I'm able to give like my 30-second spiel and talk to her about the initiative and what I wanted to do and all that I had done for her organization so far. And those are opportunities that you don't always get. Like, you have to really be like, it helps you get in the door, helps you get in the rooms, it helps you make connections, and you can be of service to your community and really make a difference in the things that you care about. And that really just goes into the last thing, which is like the impact. Like, I talk to you guys about this a lot. Everybody has a reason why, they live, what keeps them going, breathing, and mine is impact. Like, I want to have an impact on the world and the people who I touch, everybody who I encounter. I hope to impact them in a way, hopefully a great way, but like specifically like our community, our peers, young people, old people. Like, it's a chance to touch people and inspire people and make them feel some type of way. And so, although I have received success in these and so many other places and ways, like, it's not, especially thus far in the organization, it's not to the extent that I would have preferred if I would have won or had the opportunity to be Miss Maryland or had the opportunity to go to Miss America. And so, like, there's still work to be done. And the weird thing is, which I learned this past year, my last year of competing, although it seems unfair, is that your experience doing what you want to accomplish before competing for the job won't impact whether or not you get the job or not. Like last year when I was runner up, I honestly beat myself up over the fact that I didn't work hard enough for it. And it was just like the hard, fair truth. Like, you were not the hardest worker there. You were not the hardest worker this year. You did not put in the most hours. You did not do the most. So it's okay. Like, you did really good for what you prepared for. This year, that wasn't the case. You guys watched the vlogs, and that was even just like literally an hour of a clip of like weeks of the amount of work that I've been putting in for months and honestly years. It made this loss even more confusing and just a little harder. It's not fair like to say that I deserved it. I don't think the crown was mine, and because I think that we genuinely all are worthy of it. I could see so many girls, and I told a lot of girls this at Miss Maryland. I'm like, girl, you are Miss Maryland. Like, I can see it. And for a lot of girls, I'm like, you know, it may not be this year because we all can't be Miss Maryland this year, but like, if you come back and it's the right year and the right time, some people don't even need to tweak anything. It just needs to be the right environment, the right year for you. Like, you'll definitely like be Miss Maryland. One day there were so many girls, and that's probably the case because I see pictures and it's kind of like, oh wow, this girl was Miss Maryland this year, this girl was Miss Maryland this year, this girl, like, you all have what it takes. However, I say that to say that it was disappointing not to see my hard work manifest into success this past year. And the beautiful and frightening thing with pageantry is that it's such a raw and honest display of like you as an individual person. It's like how you present yourself, your ideas, your morals, your style, your impression of beauty, and it's all being judged by strangers, like people who you do not know, who do not know you, and they can just make up an opinion and it can change the trajectory of your life. It's actually insanity. And every time I lose, I ask myself, why do I put myself through this? Why do I allow myself to be judged by strangers who do not know me? Because I mean, I hope I can make you love me in 10 minutes and, you know, just fall deeper in love with me when you see me on stage and you can see my hard work, and I mean, just the amount of time that I put in my paperwork and the mock interviews. But it's like, although there's nothing more fulfilling than being seen when you present your most authentic self, your best self, it's also really embarrassing and heartbreaking to be overlooked or unsuccessful as that same authentic version of yourself that you are so proud of. Like last year, the difference between me, my first year and my second year, was a lot of that like authenticity, that no, this is exactly who Brelynn is. Brelynn is going to show up as Brelynn. And I felt like just so myself, just so happy with what I presented at Miss Maryland in 2021. And this year I was also very happy with who I presented. I just made things even better. Like, I was even more proud, I was even more aligned, I was even more in tune, I was even more, and it was like, but I did worse. So for those of you guys who don't know, if you didn't watch the vlog, which you should, by the way, I ended up making top 8. So this year there were a few less girls who competed. In general, there were things different from this year versus last year. A lot of things that were different. And I guess we'll talk about a few of those things now. So first things first is that this was basically a traditional year, just traditional with a lot of changes. So starting off, like I said, the locals, there just were not a lot of locals this year, so there were not a lot of girls. It was really hard personally for me to win a local title. And then the orientation was virtual. There was also like a virtual digital sweeps. All of that is like different than how things normally worked out. But once the class was together, we had our orientation, and the week of Miss Maryland was similar to how it was in the past, but still different, and very different than it was last year. In 2021, Miss Maryland was one of the only classes that had like a hybrid competition. So Miss Maryland, it wasn't a Miss Maryland week. It was like we had virtual preliminary competitions where you did everything on one day in your own environment. Like, you had to set up your own Zoom camera in your own environment, and you would like join a Zoom and then like do your interview. And then, well, no, we had interview one day, and the next day we would like join a Zoom and do our on-stage question, and then join the Zoom and then do our talent, and then join the Zoom and do our evening gown. It was very strange. Yeah, really interesting. And then the top 10 were announced virtually, and then we were invited back to the Maryland Theater, and then there was a 1 day of competition where we came, we learned all the production, we competed, and then Miss Maryland was crowned by the end of the day. So it was a lot of like alone time. It was a very isolating time, and it was for our safety, obviously, with COVID, which is great because we didn't have any scares. Like, we were very safe the entire time, but it definitely was a different experience. This year it was a full week. The first year when I did in 2019, I think it was maybe 6 days, and this time it was 5 days. So it was Monday to Saturday. And again, if you guys watch the vlog, you get the gist of everything. On Monday, we came in, we checked in, and it was kind of like a red carpet ceremony where we came, we spoke, and then we like took pictures in front of like a red carpet. Whereas last time we didn't really speak, we just like walked up and we signed our name on the Maryland map. That's really the difference between that event. And then also my first year competing, when we did have a full week in 2019, the theater was underneath construction, I believe, so we couldn't do everything there, whereas this time we did everything at the theater. So we were at the theater all day. We would wake up, go to the theater, rehearse, go eat lunch at the theater, go back to rehearsal, eat dinner at the theater, go back to rehearsal, and then the days where we had preliminaries, we would just be there all day. We left I think 2 times to go to a Mayor luncheon and to go to like a sponsored lunch at McDonald's. That was it. Whereas in 2019, when we did have a full week, we left to go to lunch and dinner multiple times a day. So that was the main difference between the week. So it was shorter, and but it felt longer because it was just like so much time in the theater, versus like you needed like more outfits last time, and there was a lot of like appearances and stuff. Whereas this time it was really just like you're just here learning the production, and you're just like waiting for showtime. So, I mean, I enjoyed both of my experiences, being intentional about my perspective and having positive outlooks on this experience. I'm grateful that I did get the Miss Maryland experience again, because last year was not like, it was a different experience. I'm glad I even had that, just to be able to be like, yeah, I did the pandemic experience. Cool. It was very stressful last year. Like, this year was more fun for sure, being around the girls. It was more rewarding. But yeah, so I'm glad that I got to experience the Miss Maryland week one more time. Awkward to say a lot of this stuff because I don't want to come off like bratty, but I want to be like very clear that I don't want to diminish the fact that like I am disappointed that I didn't do as well as I did last year. Continuing on, a smaller class this year, so we just had 2 preliminary nights instead of 3. Again, in 2019 we had 3 preliminary nights. This time we had 2, so there were 2 separate groups. My first night I competed in talent, and my second night I competed in my on stage pitch and question. Then I did my evening gown, or the red carpet area of competition, and then the talent and the evening gown won a preliminary award each night. So the first day, let's rewind, because the first day was pretty standard. We came, we checked in, we had rehearsals and stuff, and for me, I was just honestly in a blur the whole time because I was so tired. I waited until the absolute last second to pack, and it took me all night long. And it wasn't just packing, but it's like packing and doing your hair and showering and shaving and doing this and doing this and doing that. Like, it took me so long that I was so tired the next day. Yeah, I was literally like a zombie walking around, which kind of made my energy a little bit low. The second day was interviews, and my interview day started off like kind of rocky. I talked about it in the vlog, but not really. I basically had this vision that I wanted my hair to be parted down the middle, and I wanted to twist it going back, so that way it was out of my face, but it still had like a puff at the bottom. That way you could really just focus on my face during the interview. and it didn't work out. And so I like drenched my hair, and if I were to wear my hair just like out, I like for it to be a day or two old, that way it just gets bigger. So it was like wet, and I had like set it in a middle part, and you guys know me, I'm a side part girly, so I just already just felt like off. It's like very little things, but I was like, dang, if my hair wasn't going to turn out the way that I thought it was, I would have just kept it. I could have gotten an extra hour of sleep, whatever. My interview was very strange, like, and that's honestly, I think it was my interview. I mean, yeah, I think it was my interview that did it. I think it was a multitude of things. I think that at the end of the day, was not what the judges were looking for. And although I was myself, and I had done so many mock interviews, I was prepared, I was, articulate, I was passionate, I was funny, I was whatever, I just wasn't what they were looking for. And I think it was so clear in my interview. Like, you can just tell when it's just like I wasn't getting the feedback that I normally get. And it's so hard with mock interviews, because when people are mocking you, they are asking you either really tough questions or questions that are like, I know that you're going to get access because of your paperwork, or, I'm wanting to know you. I'm wanting to see if you're the right person for the job. But it felt like for me, when I went into my interview, they already kind of weren't interested in me based off of my paperwork, or based off of like what, I don't know if it was what they saw online. I don't really know what it was, but they weren't like excited to speak to me. They didn't seem excited. Like, they didn't seem, I don't know. And it's really surprising, because last year my interview, I didn't love it either, mainly because it was a really political interview. I was asked a lot of political questions, and that's not my jam. I don't really like political questions. I'll answer them, I do my research on it, but I just think that you can know more about a person and what they're capable of for the job of Miss Maryland, or for the, whatever job they're applying for or competing for, if you just ask them questions about themselves and their work and stuff. And what I see as Miss Maryland I want it to be, I poured into leading up to the competition, and I wrote it out very clearly and distinctly in my paperwork. And I feel like they were, again, not looking for that, so my paperwork just wasn't clear, or it was a turnoff. I will never know. I'm not quite really sure, but based off of the way that my mock interviews would go, the way that people would be intrigued by my initiative and ask me questions, and all their questions were, it didn't feel like they were rooting for me. It didn't feel like they were interested in it. I mean, they were interested in me. I really can't explain it, which I know is super annoying, but I just could tell when I left. I said it was either they were asking me questions more about like how I would be as Miss Maryland, which is great and fine, but it wasn't based off of like what I presented to them, but based off of whatever idea they had off of like what Miss Maryland should be, or whether, I don't know if it was what the board said, or based off of the other girls. Like, I don't know what they were pulling from, but it was like, I don't feel like this is a fair interview. Like, let's get to know Brelynn and see if we like Brelynn for the job. Or Miss Cumberland, or candidate number 8, whatever it was. So I felt kind of weird after my interview, but I was like, well, maybe they're asking everybody these same kind of questions, and hopefully I just answered it the best, until they think that I'll be the best for the job. Wednesday night was the first day of preliminary competitions, and I competed in talent. And this was really interesting because talent is my weakest area of competition. I know that. And so I actually changed everything about my talent. Last year, I did a contemporary ballet piece on point, and I removed my point shoes, and I was in a pink tutu, and I got a lot of feedback that people hated that talent, which was weird because I had heard a lot that people loved it, and like people's response to it, I thought that they liked it, but then it ended up hearing that people didn't like it, and specifically my director was like, the talent has got to go. So I was like, oh my gosh, like when she told me this, I was very confused leading up to Miss Maryland, because my local was very late. It was the last local of the season. It was in the last week of April, and Miss Maryland was in the last week of June. So I had exactly 2 months to get my stuff together. And I wanted to go back to Miss Maryland in 2022 basically the same way I did as 2021, with maybe just a few tweaks, and really the main tweaks was going to be my new social impact initiative was going to come off more passionate because I was more passionate about it, and it was more unique than just like general mentorship. And I changed everything. I changed everything. And it's kind of hard to say if I changed things for the better or the worse. I personally think that everything was still changed for the better. It was just a matter of the competition, the girls, the judges, the time of the day. I don't necessarily think that I was a worse competitor, but it is really hard because I'm maybe I should have kept things the same. But when it comes to my talent, I ended up hiring somebody, choosing a song. I danced to Defying Gravity, and I was I wanted it to be contemporary. And then the choreographer, she choreographed it for me, and I liked it, but I was something is missing. Y'all, I was literally considering doing ribbon twirling at the end, because I was there just needs to be something different. There needs to be something about this. I ended up getting a lot of help on my talent, and even the costume change was so last minute. Everything was so different than what I envisioned it being, and I loved it. I was very confident, this is one of the strongest talents that I did, and I worked really, really hard on it. Now, mind you guys, during the local season, I injured my hamstring, so I made sure the dance was really centered around my right leg, and I just wasn't putting a lot of pressure on this leg at all. And on Wednesday, during the morning time, we did a run through of the talents. Everybody who did talent ran through it. All the teams went first. They did tech rehearsal, and they did a fake run through of the show. And then all the misses went tech rehearsal, and then we did a run through of the show. So you got a chance to do your talent twice. And when I did, because I was last in my group, I had to wait for everybody to go before me. And I was stretching all morning long in my zone, AirPods in, just because talent just makes me so nervous. So nervous. And it's sad to know that's probably one of the last times that I'll ever perform on stage again. But it just makes me so nervous because I'm just not a solo dancer, and I know that there are just better dancers in the world. I love to dance, and I just hate being judged for it in that way. I wish I could just dance for fun, do you have a talent? Yes or no? Not are you the best? And what does this compare to this and a that? I just want to dance, So talent makes me really, really nervous, and I really want to do my best because I felt it was something that really held me back last year, that I didn't have the strongest talent, and obviously it was one that people didn't like. During the tech rehearsal, I did this one move where I basically roll over from one side to another side, on my back, or I'm on my butt, but I'm rolling over, and I overextend my knee in a way that I have never done before, and it hurt so bad. It was swollen for the rest of the week. I dislocated. I'm not really sure what it was, and I do have bad knees. My brother actually injured his knees when he was playing pro ball in Portugal overseas, and so I know that our bodies don't have great knees, but I was why today of all days? So I was so nervous all day, one because it was talent, and talent was really important, and that was going to be a big deal on whether or not I was going to be able to play with the big dogs. If they didn't like my talent, I was done for. So I was I was literally sick to my stomach all week. The day of interview, I could not eat. The day of talent, I could not eat a thing. I eat 2 bites. I'm I need some, but I wasn't even hungry. I was just nervous all week long. Anyway, ended up injuring my knee, but the day went fine. And when I look at the pictures, I think, when you're so particular about making sure that you just hit things perfectly, because it's the only shot that you have. I did the dance pretty well, especially because my knee was really injured, and I was very happy with it. So I didn't expect to win the best talent or anything. I was I just feel it's enough to keep me in the game. Now the second night, or the third night, we were there, so this is Thursday now. The preliminary competition was evening gown, and y'all saw my evening gown. Okay, I loved my evening gown this year. Now I loved my evening gown last year because it was pink and it was sparkly, and I love that gown, but I competed in it so many times with my local, and I just wanted something that just gave you that feeling when you saw me. I just wanted it to be yes, give? Because I feel like I look good all the time, but it's like, what's going to make me look great, you know? So I just had this vision of something, like, I just knew when I saw me that I wanted to be impressed with myself. Like, I wanted to feel like, you know what, I feel like I look really good, like really pretty. I remember last year being like, even though this is the dress that I quote unquote like, I don't necessarily feel like I look my best. Like, I don't feel like I look extremely pretty here. So I went with this white dress. You know, I saw that I ended up getting a train added to it. It had this high slit. I said I'm going to wear my hair up. And the reaction that I got when I walked on stage for the preliminary competition for evening gown was a dream. It was my favorite moment on stage almost in my entire life. There's one other time where I got a standing ovation after I did like a principal dance, and I literally cried because it was like, oh my gosh, like, you guys like me, you really like me. But I had that same feeling where I personally had never heard people be so verbally supportive and in line with like, girl, no, you look good. And like, you guys, you see me in dresses for, you know, years now, because I've been competing. And so I was like, okay, I did what I needed to do, exactly what I wanted. I came and I gave a moment. I looked good. I looked like a queen. I think I presented myself well, and I don't think I really ever had problems with like my walk or whatever. And I'm also like tall, so I just felt so confident and good when it came to my evening gown. And like I said, I wasn't expecting to win Best Talent, but I was really hoping that I would win Best Evening Gown, because I just felt like I did everything that I needed to do in order for it to be like a look and a moment and, you know, whatever. And I didn't end up winning Best Evening Gown for that night for my category. And that's when I knew. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. That's when I knew. I said, oh, the judges hate me. Like, they don't like me. Because, are you blind? You guys, I'm kidding. Please take this with a grain of salt. Please don't take me seriously. Nothing that I say during this podcast can be used against me. Take it with a grain of salt. But I was like, wow, that's so crazy that like y'all wasn't feeling the vibes. And y'all, when I tell you, my phone was blowing up when I got it. Everybody, like people who just don't know me, and then afterwards too, we had like a visitation. So we would go and like to this in this room in the theater, and your friends and family would be there. And so people who I didn't know were coming up to me, men, women, white, black, old, young, like babies were coming up to, I love your dress. And I was like, thank you. And people just like, the hair, my old director, like, I'm sorry, it was a crowd favorite. And so I was very discouraged after that. I mean, I kept myself in pretty good spirits, like, it's okay, it's all right. I felt like I was still a strong enough candidate to make the top 8, but I was like, I don't know about that. And at the time, I didn't even know there was going to be a top 4. I thought it was a typical top 5, like how there always was. So I was like, hopefully, you know, I'll just make the top 5. My main thing was that I didn't want to come back, do all of this, spend all this money, all this time, all this energy, all this effort, and just be third runner-up again. Like, that was my thing that I really did not want to happen. Well, even worse ended up happening, because Friday was the teens final. Shout out to Riley Jackson, our newest Maryland's Outstanding Teen. Super proud of her and excited for her. And then Saturday, when we had tech rehearsal in the morning time, production rehearsal, that's when she announced. It really wasn't an announcement. I don't know if it was prior knowledge beforehand. You know, sometimes you just go with the flow. You figure out things as they happen, and they didn't talk about the day of show for the Miss Finals until Miss Finals, because we were worried about preliminaries and worrying about teens. And so when I found out that it was going to be a top 4, I was really nervous. Like, I was already nervous. I was like, you know, I felt confident about making the top 8. I just was. It doesn't have to do anything with the girls or even just me. I just like, am I gonna make am I gonna be a finalist? I feel like I'm gonna be a semi-finalist. That would be wild. But am I going to be a finalist again? Am I going to make the top 5? If I make the top 5, from there it's a ballot. So it's just a matter of, and a ballot basically means that once you make the top 5, all points go out of the window, and then the judges rank the girls 1 through 5, and who, you know, then it's thing like, oh, this girl got the most ones, girl got the most twos, and they go into points and blah blah blah. So I'm like, it could really depend on if I make the top 5, I can get that ballot. And at tech rehearsal, we were told that it's going to be a top 4. And just looking to my left and to my right, again, I don't do a lot of comparing throughout the week, but there were 3 girls who ended up getting a preliminary award. 2 of them were double, and 1 was like a tie. So they really only left room for 1 other person. And I was like, I hope that person is me. But I also can see a couple of other people who could be in that spot as well. And I wish it was just more of a clear thing. And it's like last year, I wasn't like pressed to be top 5. Of course, I wanted it. I wanted to be Miss Maryland. But like once I got there, I was like, you know what? If I don't make top 5, like that's okay. And I looked around, I thought a lot of people could be in the top 5. I didn't think it was a shoo-in for me. I was very like shocked and happy and excited to be top 5. And then when I was third runner up, I was like, wow, I did good. And so this year, though, I was looking to my left and my right, and I was like, I feel like it could not be me, but I could just be hard on myself because, I'm myself, and I feel like, everybody else is amazing too. Maybe I don't see how amazing I am. Saturday night comes, lo and behold, I make the semifinals, so I am top 8. I think I was called number, was I 4 or 6 on the finals night? I think I was 6. No, maybe I was 4. I think I was 4. And actually, no, I have no idea. I can't remember what number I was. I just remember like I wasn't really nervous. Actually, I wasn't nervous at all. I really was not nervous about semifinals, and not to say that in a cocky way. I think my mind was just like, I'm going to worry about one area competition at a time. So it was like, first things first was talent. By Saturday, my knee was even worse. And I definitely performed my talent worse than I did my preliminary night. But I was just like, you know what? I didn't fall on my butt. I finished on time. Okay, cool. Next, it was your question. And for my onstage question, she told us during tech rehearsal that it was going to be political questions, current event questions, which again are not my favorite. So I was thinking to myself, okay, obviously we are days away from the Roe v. Wade news breaking, and I'm a maternal health advocate. My initiative is all about the maternal health crisis, women's reproductive justice. Like, I'm clearly going to be asked a question about this. I was prepared for a question about abortion. And I was prepared for other questions too, but the question that I ended up being asked was about open conceal carry laws. And it was something that I had briefly just seen because I was like, let me look at my phone today just to see if there's any new stuff going on, because it's going to be political questions. But I didn't want to like you don't want to do too much and look too much, but I say this in my personal life all the time. I'm not a guns girl. I don't like guns. Some people are afraid of snakes. Some people are afraid of heights. Some people are afraid of roller coasters. I'm afraid of guns. I don't like guns. And so I honestly, though, I'm so not even anti-guns, but just genuinely afraid that it's hard for me to even formulate an opinion, especially like an educated opinion on guns, because they just scare me. So a lot of times when I'm doing my research or, just updating myself on current events, when it comes to guns, I'm like, I know what my stance is, but the question was really interesting because it asked me about concealed carry, and it's something that is already legal here in Maryland. So what could I really say? I felt like there was no room for me to elaborate in the question. It was like, do you agree with this, yes or no? And I was like, well, I personally I feel uncomfortable with guns. So it's something that I wish that they would reconsider because it makes me scared. It makes me uncomfortable. And that's really all I could say. And even looking back on it, like how I could speak about it more, I think maybe if I was so like I am anti-guns, but I'm like, I can't even, like, because the question wasn't about guns, it was about concealed to carry, and I'm like, I could have just taken it all the way left and been like, they should have guns in the first place, but that's just like not where my mind went. And I also get really nervous answering on stage questions. I have the tendency to blank, so I wanted to keep it short. And I feel like when it comes like to the top 8 and it being really competitive, getting it to the top 4, I think that my question wasn't strong enough to get me there, especially because the judges weren't, in my opinion, a big fan of me to begin with. So after that, we did evening gown. I had a great time in my evening gown, and then we switched back into our interview outfits for us to do an onstage pitch, because the top 4 girls were going to do a top pitch, and I wasn't called in the top 4. And like I said, it was like, I feel like I presented a better, more complete, better thought out version of myself. And it's just sad that it wasn't rewarded. It's like you streamlining something major at your job and you get a demotion. Like, what is happening? And so yeah, it's hard to wrap my head around it, and it's even harder to be proud of myself because the results just don't reflect my hard work. And it sucks because I don't get another chance. And I wish that my Miss Maryland story didn't end like this. Like I said, I was more proud of myself, even though I'm a loser either way. I'm a big fat loser. Even though either way, I'm not Miss Maryland, I'm not going to Miss America, and I don't get, more time with my social impact. It's like, I just wish it didn't end this way, where I did worse this year than I did last year. Especially because I don't think it's because I declined my performance. I really just think it was like time and place and the people and the judges. And so it's like, I wish I didn't come back, because it literally just wasn't my year. And it felt like that the entire year. And even though I've gained a lot from it, like I said, people, experiences, opportunities and stuff, it also feels like I knew I shouldn't have done it at the same time. And it's like I saw so many girls from other states come back and win this year, especially like Black girls, and I just felt like so strongly like it was supposed to be me, like it could have been me. And I honestly don't know like what I could have done, differently to change the results. It's not like, if I would have worn my hair like this or my dress like this, or like, yes, the interview could have been different, but I couldn't have prepared. I couldn't have known what they were looking for in order to be different. I was just myself, and if that's not what they wanted, then I really couldn't have changed. I couldn't have prepared to change more. I just truly feel like it wasn't for me. Like, this just being Miss Maryland was not for me, at least not this year, no matter how bad I wanted it for myself. So how do you cope with being told no in order to walk in the will of God? If I'm being honest, like I said, I never received confirmation that this was God's plan for me. In fact, I received silence when I purposefully seeked out an answer. So what have we learned? No answer is not a yes. That's one. And that clearly God has other plans for me, and it makes me sad. Like, why couldn't this have been the experience? Like, why did you place this desire in my heart if you weren't going to fulfill it? Like, why did I waste months and almost years of my life chasing this goal that ends with virtually nothing to show for it? I'm really grateful for somebody who actually sent me this really great article after losing. It's by Anna B. Newton. It's called For the Runners Up. She mentioned 4 different things in this article. I'm going to read them to you here, and I'll also leave a link in the show notes down below. But one, she says that the determination of the winner is up to 5 individuals. If there were 5 different judges, there would probably be a different winner. And so just as she had to remind herself of that, and I have to remind myself of that, if you are in a similar situation now, tomorrow, or in the future, I hope you remind yourself of that, and that your worth is not, and it should not be determined by 5 random individuals who do not know you. Number 2 is to be proud of yourself. You miss 100% of the chances that you didn't take. That's the grace that I'm giving myself, is that I have a regret for doing it, but I also know that if I didn't do it, I also would have had a regret. I would have had more regrets. It would have been a big what if. The quote-unquote person who we thought was gonna win didn't win, and it's not because she wasn't amazing. It's the same thing where it's just like the judges just had a different vision. I love our new Miss Maryland, and I think that her trajectory leading up to Miss Maryland was very similar to mine. And so if I would have stopped and I didn't do my third local and I didn't do Miss Maryland, and she did, and she ended up having to do 3 locals, and if she would have won, I would have looked and been like, that possibly could have been me, because I also had a hard time the local season, and I also thought that, you know, these girls could have beat me out, but if like she beat them out, then I could have possibly, you know what I'm saying, like I would have had a lot of regrets if I didn't do it, especially because of the way that this year went. And you miss 100% of the chances that you don't take. So I'm glad I took the chance, even though it didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to. And it's bittersweet, but I still have to be proud of myself, proud of how hard I prepared, how hard I worked, and just the fact that I gave it my all. And also, again, doing pageants are hard, okay? It's not for the weak, it's not for the meek. You have to have courage to get on that stage and showcase all that you have to offer in front of, again, these strangers, in front of people who think that they are little mini judges in the audience judging you. Like, I already had to overcome being so much and be on that stage and take up that space and have that experience. And so, like, just being proud of myself, even though it's really, really hard too. It's not my plan, it's his. My plan was to become Miss Maryland, to live out that dream, to use like this next year before I go to medical school, since I have to have another year, to become the maternal health advocate that I admire and that I feel like is in line with God's purpose for me, and to use the Miss Maryland platform to do so. And although that's not the case, I won't have the 6 months leading up to Miss America to be dedicated doing that. My next 6 months are not going to be as glamorous at all. Ultimately, God has greater plans for me, and I'm excited to live my life and see the hidden blessings unfold. So overall, I am thankful for my experience in pageantry. Like I said, I've gained so many skills. I've learned the importance of volunteerism and giving. I've met so many special people, and I've overcome a lot of challenges. Maybe one day I'll get the answer as to, you know, why I wasn't here and now, but for now, I do just have to accept the fact that I'm just a big fat loser and that it's over, and I have to heal quickly because I have a new chapter that's starting now. My winning of this pageant would determine the next year of my life. I knew a year ago that my life was not going to look the same come this time. And as we got closer and closer and closer, that decision was very clear. Like, I'm either going to be Miss Maryland or I'm going to have this very other lifestyle. And I'll talk about that in the next vlog. If you guys want to see that, make sure you are subscribed. And before we head out, I definitely want to leave you guys with some kingdom keys, because I believe that God speaks to us in various different ways.
And we can see the same problem. It bothers you and it don't bother me. And it bothers you because you've been assigned to do something about it. So the reason David was uniquely agitated with Goliath is because he's assigned to it. And the things that's agitating you are often the things you're anointed for.
I want to tell somebody this flipping season. If this is flipping season. So let's not complain, or be upset or offended with the little joy we have. Flip it. Let's not be upset and complain about the little piece we have. Flip it. Let's not be offended by, come on, the little opportunity we have. Flip it, because little is much when you place it in the hands of God. And if you will manage it properly, God will multiply it in a way that's exceedingly and abundantly above all you ask of.
Lastly, we're going to end this episode off right with a few minutes of guided affirmations to keep our spirits up and focus as we move throughout our day. Remove all distractions and verbally repeat these words after me. I accept hard emotions and allow myself to express them when I need to. I love trying new things regardless of the result. I am brave enough to chase my wildest dreams. I am proud of myself. There are no limits to what I can achieve. I am a queen. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe. You can do so on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you're not already watching the pod, don't forget we over here chilling, cackling, and having a good time on YouTube. So subscribe to my channel at Beauty and Brains. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Brelynn Hunt. A lot of you guys are going to ask me, what am I going to do next? Right now, I'm going to focus on school. This will not be the end of my pageant journey. The bug has been bitten. Like I said, I can't go out like this. So just stay tuned to see what I do next. If you know me and if you know what my goals are with pageantry, you probably know what's next. So just stay tuned. Visit my website, BrelynHunt.com, for weekly podcast updates or to contact me to share your story. And until next time, be sure to live each day to the fullest because you only live once. And give yourself some grace. Win or lose, we are all just a work in progress. I'll see you guys next time.